Hey, what's happening, everybody, and welcome back to Scents of South Jersey with me, Kellen, for another fragrance video. Today, I'm going to go back to a video series that I did last year. I put out a couple videos in a row last year about this series and this theme, but I haven't done one in a while, and recently I've acquired a vintage and current formulation of this fragrance, and I want to do a then and now video. So in a then and now video, what we do is we compare the fragrance in a normal review with presentation, its notes, its performance based on my experience, my thoughts, and my overall ratings. But then I add in, do I think the vintage is worth it? It's a separate part in the video where I discuss the pros and cons of getting the vintage. The fragrance in discussion today, the topic, the one that we're going to dissect in this then and now video, is from the house of Christian Dior, and it is the original Eau Sauvage Eau de Toilette. So, like I mentioned, we'll break the fragrance down. I have it in its vintage and its current formulation. And then I have all the body line products as well, which I'm gonna break down for you guys briefly and just talk about those because you guys know I like to layer. So without wasting any more time, we have a lot to talk about. Let's dive right into Eau Sauvage. Okay, starting things off as always with the presentation, let's take a look at the vintage Eau Sauvage box. So you got it right here, guys. Sorry about the ring light reflection, but it's kind of got this almost goldish brown type of old wooden or marble type of granite look to it. Eau Sauvage, Christian Dior, and it says an Eau de Toilette. That's the concentration. On the bottom there, it is a 100 ml bottle. On the top, you just have this beautiful brown type of marbling type of granite look to it. Again, the same thing on the back. Eau de Toilette size and concentration, 100 ml, 3.4 ounce. And then on the bottom, you have some brand information. Now on the sides, there's a way to tell about the vintage from what I understand. There's a barcode, and then right there is probably not going to focus, guys. I'm sorry, but it's an address. And it's Parfums Christian Dior, 33 Avenue Hoch 75008, Paris, France. Now, I know that there's an earlier one where I believe the address was 30 or 31, but this is still a vintage formulation. So when you compare this box to the new formulation, taking a look, this is a larger box, but they really totally did away with the look. And I think this has a much more vintage or old style, old fashioned look to it, where this one's a little bit cleaner, a little bit more modern looking, and it's very reflective here. All white, silver Eau Sauvage, Eau de Toilette right there. This is a spray bottle box, whereas the other one was a splash. On the bottom here, you've got your barcode and I believe a batch code stamped in there right there. You can see it is 1601, and this is a 200 ml bottle, and it's an Eau de Toilette as well too. So when we take a look at the bottles themselves, they look very similar. So here is the current formulation, and here is the vintage. The vintage is a splash. Let's take a look at that here. It says Eau Sauvage right there on the front, and it does say Eau de Toilette, Christian Dior, and then on the back, it has some more brand information there to hold that for you guys. It says Parfums Christian Dior, that zip code made in France, and it's 100 ml. So you can hold it by the cap. The cap does twist off. It's kind of like a metal plastic. I'm not really sure. It's a splash bottle. Pretty decent dispenser, although it does pour out a lot. I have used a lot, and nothing really going on the bottom there, but an etching of a barcode. So here is the current formulation. Now the difference, Eau Sauvage, Christian Dior does not say Eau de Toilette, but on the back there, it has all that information. It says Parfums Christian Dior, that same zip code, Eau de Toilette made in France. The cap, however, is a magnetic one, so it's pretty nice, and really, again, nothing but a small etching on the bottom. Let's take a look at this one's distribution. Since this is a spray, this is the hand that I have the current on, and this one is the vintage too. So really nice presentation. Doesn't matter the formulation. I really like both of them. Okay, so now let's talk about the notes for Eau Sauvage by Christian Dior too. So I'm not gonna do a vintage or current with the notes again. I don't even know if there's two separate listings. At least if there is, I didn't see one. So in the top, you have lavender, bergamot, basil, rosemary, caraway, and fruit notes. Fruit notes is listed. And then in the middle, or the heart of the fragrance, you have jasmine, coriander, carnation, patchouli, orris root, sandalwood, and rose. Rose is something I do not get at all, thankfully, because I don't really like it. And then in the base, we have oak moss, vetiver, musk, and amber. Too. So the notes that I get, definitely the citrus, the lemon, the bergamot, a little bit of maybe the herbal, like the rosemary and the basil, but basically citrus. Citrus very heavy. And then when it dries down, especially with the vintage, you get some of that oak moss, and it's a little musky, sort of powdery barbershop musk. That's what I get with both of them, but it's just a little amped up with the vintage one. Okay, so the big question is performance. Which one is going to be better? So let's talk about the vintage first. So initially, I was extremely disappointed with the performance. And the fragrance isn't sour, it hasn't turned, it smells spectacular, exactly how I expected it to smell. However, at first I was like, God, this is only lasting like 30 minutes. And what I think was happening is I just kept applying it, hence why the bottle's halfway done. So shame on me, I didn't really take my time. And what I've learned is that less is more with the vintage. The vintage will last longer in the 3 to 4 hour range. Again, not a beast mode fragrance. I don't think it was ever designed to be a longevity, powerhouse fragrance, despite it being a classic, despite the vintage having all the real notes in there, the real oak moss, etc., all that stuff that you guys know about. I don't think it was ever meant to be, a really long-lasting fragrance. However, when I may say less is more, I noticed it longer when I didn't apply a ton to it, because I think I was going nose blind. I think I was going anosmic to it. I was not noticing it because I just kept putting it on and wondering where it went. Now, when you think about the current formulation, it is probably about a 3 hour max. And initially, that's why I bought this big bottle. I'm like, let me just get the current so I can compare it and I can see, what the difference is. Is this one gonna last longer? Maybe my vintage, maybe something went wrong with this bottle. But I figured out that nothing's wrong with it. You just don't need to put a lot on and you're gonna get whiffs of it throughout the day. This one is gonna be just under the vintage, maybe maxing out at 3 hours, where this one is only about an hour more. So, they're not that much different, but this one definitely, you don't need to put as much on with this. You can kind of bathe in it as I've done, which I really enjoy doing with this fragrance. So performance in general, not that great, but it's going to last a little bit longer with the vintage. You don't need to use as much, where with this one, you can apply a lot more to get you to that 3 hour mark. Again, clothing really helps. Since this is a spray, it's easy to do that. Okay, let's go over my overall thoughts for Dior's Eau Sauvage. So, the reason I tracked this vintage one down and ended up getting all these Bodyline products, which I'm going to go over in just a moment, is because I wanted a classic, but I wanted it to be a summer one. I have a lot of classics that are a little bit heavier, and a lot of things can transcend different seasons, but I wanted one that I know anytime it's really hot out, I can reach for it, and Eau Sauvage does just that. However, you can wear it all year round, doesn't matter, but I think it makes the most sense in the warmer months. And the fragrance in general, whether it's the current or the vintage, is awesome. I really like it. In fact, I love the fragrance. It's great. So the vintage definitely lasts a little bit longer. It's a little bit richer, more depth to the scent, a little more earthier, and the dry down has more of that powdery oak moss type of barbershop scent, where the current one is definitely weaker, but not that much. And you have to spray more to achieve the same effect, but essentially you can get the same thing. However, it doesn't have as much longevity, what little there is in general, but and the scent isn't as deep or as rich as the vintage. But again, it's not that much different. But when you're doing the side-by-side comparison, when you're wearing one day and the other next, you can notice it. You can notice like right now, this smells like a little bit powdery, a little earthy, somewhat green. And this one does too, but it's more citrus and it's not as strong too. So when the citrus fades with this one, you can really notice the other notes in the base especially. This one is just a little bit more citrus forward and has the same type of dry down, but just toned down. So again, you can wear this anywhere. It's office safe. It's a day out, a night out. It can be casual. It can be formal because it's a classic. It's a real gentleman's barbershop type of fragrance. I really enjoy it. The differences are there that I've broken down. They're subtle. However, this one does really command a high price tag. So the cost of this 200 ml bottle was less than the cost of this 100 ml splash for the vintage. So, it really comes down to how much you want it. And if it's worth it to you. If you're just going to get the current formulation, there's some things that you can do to enhance the performance, and that's the Bodyline. You guys know I'm always a fan of that. So let me go over some of the things. Let's take a look first with the shower gel. I didn't bring all the boxes down because they're identical to this, just the shape of whatever the product is. So this is the Eau Sauvage shower gel. Comes in a nice hard plastic. You don't have to worry about it breaking if you take it for travel. Opens up there. Stuff smells fantastic. It smells almost identical to the cologne, which is awesome. Sometimes shower gels are a little bit, they smell a little bit more chemical. This is high quality stuff. The deodorant stick, fantastic. Smells like the scent with a little bit of that, just normal deodorant material in there too. It's got a nice blue cover. I wore this to the gym today, and it didn't fail me. Wasn't weak. Didn't last for 5 minutes. It really did throughout the whole workout. I didn't notice any sort of BO coming out or the deodorant was failing me. Something else you can do is a deodorant spray. Eau Sauvage has this. It's a natural spray, and it's a nice burst. Smells just like the eau de toilette. Smells great. Just an added thing that you put on under your arms or on your shirt or your chest before you apply the cologne, just to get that extra longevity. And for someone that shaves like I do, I shave once a week because my beard is really thick. They've got the shaving cream, and this stuff smells fantastic. It comes out right there, as you can see. It smells also just like the cologne. So kudos to Sauvage for making all of their body line stuff smell virtually the same as the Eau de Toilette too. So these things will help press the performance if you're just going to get the current, which I think is something that you can do if you're not into the hunting the vintage. The only thing I don't have is an aftershave balm, but what did was a good stand-in was an Acqua di Parma Colonia, because it's in the same family. It's like the Italian cousin to Eau Sauvage. So again, the body line helps with the performance for this one, but in terms of the scent differences, they're subtle, but you're going to just pay more for this, where this can achieve the same thing. You just have to apply a little bit more. That's pretty much it. Okay, so now it's time for the video where I give my thought and opinion on, is the vintage bottle worth getting, or should you just get the current formulation? So the simple answer for the average fragrance purchaser, the one-word answer is no. The vintage is not worth it, in my opinion, and here's why. If you have that vintage curiosity, if you're a collector, if you're a reviewer, or you just really want to know the difference, I get that. I get that feeling. Hell, I did it. You know what I mean? I got the vintage here, and I've got the current formulation. The differences are there, but they're subtle, and it costs a lot more. I think the price for this currently outweighs the differences. It's not so drastic that, oh my God, this will last me forever. I would blow through this bottle, but the key to this is less is more, and I had to learn that the hard way about halfway through. Where this, have a blast, spray on as much as you want. I think these 200 mLs on eBay, you can get them, but I usually go for eBay for stuff like this because it's a little bit better deal. I think it was 120 bucks. This is 160, 165. Maybe I would get another one if it were, through a bid that I had won, and maybe 100 or under, maybe, yeah, go for it. But anything over that, the differences for me, my personal experience, are just not that much to where I think it's worth buying another vintage bottle. So I would say that, you achieve the same effect. Maybe you just apply a little bit more, but you can buy more. Plus they have all the body line things. So I would say in the case of Eau Sauvage, as much as I love it, and I really enjoy the vintage, and I learned that less is more with it, and I'm going to use it that way until this bottle's done. In the future, I probably wouldn't pick it up unless it were a steal. I would just get another bottle of the current, because again, scent is virtually the same, just not as rich, not as deep, and but the performance is neck and neck. The vintage is better on all those points by just a little bit. Okay guys, so now we're gonna end things like any normal review that I do with my ratings. So let's do the presentation too. I like both presentations a lot. I like this box. It's definitely classier. It's definitely old school, but I like what they did here. They kept it simple. It's clean. It still's got an old school look to it because it's not some crazy, tacky design. I think both boxes are cool, and I'm glad that they pretty much kept the bottles virtually identical. So presentation for Eau Sauvage in general, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10. When it comes to the performance, 3 hours, 4 hours, let's just give it the benefit of the doubt and we'll call it a 4. So 4 out of 10 for the performance. And when we're talking about the scent, I love it. It's so fresh, citrus, little green in the end with that powdery classic barbershop style gentleman's fragrance all year round. It's an amazing scent, and it stood the test of time. The very first of the Dior fragrance for men, and I think they didn't come out with another male fragrance until the 80s, and that was Yule, or Jules, whatever you want to call it. So scent is a 9 out of 10. So that's going to bring the overall rating for Eau Sauvage by Dior from me to a 7 out of 10. Okay guys, that's going to wrap up this video for me. I hope you all enjoyed this edition of Then and Now, Eau Sauvage by Christian Dior. Let me know in the comments section, do you own the vintage? Do you have the current one? What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think that the current one is just fine? Or are you a diehard Eau Sauvage vintage fan that you got to track this down no matter what? Please let me know in the comments section. You guys know I always appreciate all of the interaction. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already, and check out the Sense of South Jersey Instagram page for news and updates on the channel. And I will see you all in the next video. Take care.